Hi, Roy here on my channel, Roy Reads Anything, and the business of the day is the GarbAugust Truth or Dare tag. So GarbAugust, the greatest BookTube event ever, a month of reading trashy books as initiated by Criminally, and this is a tag people are doing in the run up to that. Okay, so I'm just going to get straight into it. So, first question, how would you personally describe trashy books? Okay, so I did, in my announcement video, I did a thing where I drew a diagram to help explain that, and I did the diagram to kind of mock myself for my tendency to do things like drawing diagrams, but it actually got the seal of approval of Criminally as making some kind of sense, so I'm going to talk about that again. So, idea for what trashy books might be. Imagine a scale from original at one end to derivative at the other. So you score your book, any book, how original or how derivative it is. You can also score them on another scale from tasteful to lurid. Okay, so if you get those two scores, you then can put any book into one of these four boxes. So books that are incredibly derivative, they're following a set pattern, a set sort of market niche, and they're full of lurid activities. That's where the trash is. Okie doke. Following me so far? So if you're at this sort of derivative end, but it isn't full of kind of shock-a-doobie stuff, something like I don't know, a sort of a cozy whodunit, for instance. That's, to me, that's like genre fiction, but maybe isn't trash. Okay, and then over at this end, where books are original, they're coming from people's creative ideas, the really tasteful ones, that would be your respectable literature. But you can have proper literature, as it were, that has got those kind of lurid, dramatic happenings in them. Maybe lots and lots, you know, your sort of Poppy Z. Bright or William Burroughs or maybe even Cormac McCarthy. So I think up here you've got sensation literature. So that's my description. So worked example, Dracula by Bram Stoker, sensational literature. Dracula's Lost World by Robert Laurie, number 7 in the Dracula horror series. That would be trash material, okay? So, which isn't to say it's bad. You know, this could be Dracula's quest for gold in an undiscovered, uncivilized land. This appeals to me. Black Forces, the 7th volume in the unwholesomely horrible Dracula series. Original tales of legendary wickedness and modern-day suspense. The key to Dracula's 20th century reincarnation is the brilliant scientist Dr. Damien Harmon. By means of a fantastic electronic implant, Professor Harmon is able to control the actions of Dracula in all his grim guises. So, yes, you see what I mean? It's offering you a pretty predictable but hopefully exciting read, and there's a bit of strange bit of art on this copy. Dracula's mouth is actually a barcode. So yeah, that's quite a nice bit of art there. Okay, so describing trashy books, I've given it a go. What's the trashiest book you own? That would be The Secret Book that I'm going to be talking about in the 4th week of GarbAugust, which is a sort of anything goes week. So it's in here, but watch this space. What's the trashiest situation you have ever been in? I'm trying to think what a trashy situation might be.
Should I leave the room?
Well, using the prompts of GarbAugust to think what a trashy situation might be. If the first week is about category romance, a la Mills and Boon, has one ever been in a Mills and Boon type romantic situation?
I think our whole lives are a Mills.
Well, we've been married 30 years. I think we've done the happy ever after bit. So that's admittedly, this might not be what people had in mind when they said a trashy situation, but there's that. Or men's adventure. Now, perhaps less so. I spend little time operating as a one-man army of vengeance so far, but anything's possible.
Just ruined my entire life knowing that.
Paperbacks from hell. You know, have we go again? My life has been relatively free of killer slugs, etc. So maybe not. Vintage smut. Well, that depends how long ago we start things being vintage and how we define smut and whether I can remember what happened. Novelisations. Well, that's it. Are we living in a novelisation, a fictional copy of something else? Getting into your sort of Matrix type territory. Or books by famous people. Do we live in a world created by famous people, or are famous people living out scripts created by us? Okay, none of that's probably what was meant. Thinking about Michael K. Vaughan's take on this, we told a trashy but heartwarming story involving actual trash, as in garbage and rubbish. Reminded me of the 2 years I spent in my first job as a cleaner in a nightclub. So you can read all about those adventures in this book, Performance Cleaner. Booklet, really. It's 60 pages of those times, which probably contained every kind of trashiness you can think of. So let me read you a little passage as my trashy situation. The urinals, new paragraph, the urinals were situated against a rough cast wall, which was a bit of a problem hygiene-wise. I built a structure from laminated MDF, which made the whole thing more cleanable and was fine for a few months. One day I took the front part of my structure off to get at the S-bends and beheld a scene of horror. The white plastic on the inside of the 6-foot-long panel had peeled away, blistered and burst in many places. The wood chip interior was sodden and had started rotting. Worse, it was crawling with tiny creatures, woodlice and insects in profusion. Eggs had been laid. It was like a Hieronymus Bosch painting. The pure white exterior of my MDF construction concealed this teeming, chaotic scene, creatures gorging themselves on the bodily effluvia of the punters. This disgusting thing had to go. I pulled it off and carried it through the club with its obscene insectile cargo, moving so quickly that, I hoped, a handful of lunchtime punters wouldn't register what was happening. I ran with the board held at shoulder height down the beach towards the sea in an obscene parody of performance surfing and threw it into the cleansing waves. The women's toilets were relatively civilised. But anyway, enough of that. Trashy situations involving actual trash. Right, what else? Have you ever... Yeah, not answering that. Or... So, legitimately answering the second question, which book has the best smut scene you've ever read? Well, bit of a cheat in that I haven't read it, but Dr. Jenny has, for an incredibly long time now, been reading Buckskin 39, Blazing Six Guns, an adult western, which I challenged her to read when we were on holiday a lifetime ago, and it's finally been DNF'd. You know, she's been intently plodding through it, and it's
day after day after wearisome day. And it's only about 30 pages long. 30 pages of the diarist trash I've ever read in the whole of my life. And I've read pornography.
Yep, so worse than pornography. But so I've sort of experienced this a bit like passive smoking, I suppose, passive smutting. And there's an incredibly long mechanical sex scene towards the beginning, which culminates, the whole purpose of the activity culminates in this happening. You about ready? She asked, looking up at him with awe. He nodded. Then the whole world blasted apart in his face, and the heavens tilted, and the planets flew off their orbits, and the solar system crashed, with everything falling back into the sun, which produced a white-hot burning light that blinded him for a moment. Then he could see plainly, and there was nothing but white on white. So, a benchmark there for sex havers everywhere. If that's not the experience you're reaching, then you must be doing something wrong, according to Buckskin 39. Okay, so
I chose to refer to that as his moment.
Have you ever given or received a trashy book as a gift? Well, not really, no. And second part, if so, what was the book and your or their reactions? I can't really think of that happening, although I do remember back when I was a teenager, my dad buying me a bunch of Conan books, so Conan paperbacks. He brought back 3 of these from W.H. Smith's. He knew I liked like the first one that I'd managed to find. And it did strike me as odd that I was being given a book featuring on the cover a naked man straddling an enormous snake. So it's a great painting by Frank Frazetta, but you've got to admit it's a little bit paging Dr. Freud. But we got over that moment, and it's a fantastic book. So there you go, and not trash really. It's sensational literature, or maybe it's on the cusp between the two. Cusp. Did you ever read trashy books from your parents' shelves as a kid? Well, you know, we didn't really have like The Joy of Sex or anything, as other people have said. I do remember this being around, Peyton Place. I think at the time, mid-60s, it was kind of the law that every house had to have one of these. But I wouldn't have made any headway into that. At the time, we're going to be reading it later this month as a sort of prelude to GarbAugust. And if novelisations are trash, I know this is a hot topic amongst the GarbAugust co-hosts. There was a novelisation of Forbidden Planet, a science fiction movie, which was actually the first adult book that I read when I was about 6 or something. So yes, I suppose is the answer. And given that that's a Forbidden Planet, the movie's based on Shakespeare's The Tempest, it's kind of, you know, yes, it might be trashy in the sense that it's cashing in on the popularity of a movie, but it's Shakespeare too. So what's going on? Where's that one going to be? So that's all the questions. I think I've answered them all legitimately, but let's just say, if you think you've been shortchanged, I'll do one of the dares. Show a book you own, but you wouldn't read in public. I would still to this day struggle with Sword's Mistress of Chaos with her one bosom. It somehow makes it worse that there's only one bosom. I mean, it's not even in the story. I mean, it's, you know, it's implied that she has bosoms, but it's not like she's not like an Amazon or something that literally has one bosom. But you know, why is this there? And it's a great novel, but I'd struggle a little bit reading this on a bus, tram, ferry or other public place. but it is really good. But it also counts as trash. So yes, that I think is the GarbAugust truth or dare tag. Tag yourself if you fancy doing any of that.